here I have in front of me a young man, 25 years old, that felt compelled to go out and serve his country. The country that he was born in, a legal citizen of, and then had to experience racism like you did. So how did a young man like yourself overcome that experience and be able to go and serve the way you did? Racism is something we made. Everybody keeps saying somebody needs to do something, and the somebody is me. Each one of us needs to do something. We're all U.S. citizens. We should take pride in that above everything else. That is our common bond. We're all human beings. So welcome to America Undivided.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Meeting today with my friend Jay. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, what makes you want to come in and have the opportunity to be a part of this?
For sure, yeah. So I'm 25. I was born in Arkansas to a white mom, black dad, and then moved to California as I got a little older. Pretty much grew up my entire life there. Joined the military, was in the Marine Corps for 5 years, kind of went everywhere in the world. And yeah, I just really appreciate what you do, what your goal is. I want to help to bring to light that things like this still do happen, things that really should have stopped a long time ago, that we still face. White people, black people, brown people, we're all people. And I think that that's something that not everybody is on terms with yet. So,
born in Arkansas.
Yes, yeah, in El Dorado, little
to
town.
A white mother,
Yeah,
black father.
yeah.
And how long did you live there?
I was there for about 8 years.
So till you're 8 years old.
Yeah, 8 or 9, right before. Yep.
And then moved to California.
That's correct. Yeah.
That had to have been culture shock.
It actually, it was kind of scary. I moved to a really small town in California that was like a prison town, where the only time that the kids had ever interacted with a black person or heard about black people was from their parents who worked at the prisons. So it was very negative connotations every time I spoke with somebody, at least around my age. So yes and no, as far as a culture shock, it was definitely a different area, and the things were less under wraps. When you heard about something and people would come to you and say something really just blatantly racist or not, you would get it straight to your face. And in Arkansas, it was kind of everybody knew their place and knew where to go, where not to go, what stores are okay, and things like that.
So if I'm picking up what you're putting down, what you're saying is that in Arkansas, it seemed more segregated, therefore a little more insulated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, the interaction. But in California,
yeah, you kind of
it was more out of the frying pan into the fire, so to speak. There was no insulation.
No,
right?
Nothing to protect you. No,
but really,
warning.
No major difference. No. You don't feel.
No, not at all.
And how old are you?
I'm 25.
25.
Yeah, just turned 25.
And joined the Marine Corps.
Yeah, I was in for 5 years.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you for
support. I appreciate it. I admire anybody that was willing to be a part of any part of our service providers, whether it be military, whether it be police, firemen,
Yeah, it's all.
Where would we be without them? So it's really easy to pick them apart.
For sure.
When somebody makes a mistake, but where the heck
would we be without somebody standing there? Yeah.
Somebody that was willing to take that job, because it takes a better person, I'm afraid, than me, and so therefore I truly admire it. Even the police officers that have arrested me in my lifetime, I tried to find a way to get back to them and say thank you.
For sure, yeah.
Because I might not have been very appreciative when it happened. But I realized they were just doing their job. They weren't picking on me.
Absolutely.
If I hadn't been making bad decisions, I wouldn't have been in that spot. And so for me personally, one of the keys in my life has always been being willing to point the finger at myself first and work out from there.
Takes a big man to do that.
Right? And if I'm unwilling to do that, if I'm just pointing the finger at somebody else all the time, now I'm a victim. Now I have no control, and I can't change the situation because I've given it over to them. But if I am willing to point the finger at myself, then I can look back and I can say, hey, where could I have made a better decision and maybe had a different outcome?
Absolutely.
Right? And then I start to see some answers and things start to brighten up a little bit.
Yeah, you can see the changes that you can make to make a bigger change around you.
But I'll tell you something that's really fascinating to me. And I really want you to think about this maybe for a minute. Maybe you don't have to, right? I've often wondered, because I've never been, black. I've never had to experience racism through somebody else's eyes like that way. So I can't even say that I know how you feel. It would be offensive for me to do that, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things that's very clear to me is that here I have in front of me a young man, 25 years old, that felt compelled to go out and serve his country. The country that he was born in, a legal citizen of, and then had to experience racism like you did. So how did a young man like yourself overcome that experience and be able to go and serve the way you did?
Took a long time for my body to catch up with my brain, but I think that I knew from a young age that that's what I needed to do. I wanted to learn how to be a man. I wanted to learn the right things and do the right things the right way and have pride in my last name. It was something I didn't have growing up. Dad walked out on my mom when we were really young and just never really felt like I had anything to be proud of. So I figured if I could give my little brother something and my mom something to show her that all the sacrifices that she made were worth it, that it would benefit me in the long run as well. And so I kind of just put my head down and used that as a catalyst and as the driving force for every decision I made after that, to try to stay on the straight and narrow, try not to make any decisions that would keep me from being able to reach those goals and reach those dreams. And so I think that was the biggest thing, is just not really focusing on what everybody else was doing, but instead focusing on what I needed to do to get to the point that I wanted to be at in my life, and just strive to stay on that track the best of my ability.
So you grew up in a divorced family?
Yeah, broken home.
How old were you?
I was 2 when my dad first left. He came back for maybe a year and left again. So I have really no memories of him whatsoever, good or bad. I never felt like I got stripped away from him or that he was stripped away from me. I just didn't feel anything for him. And as I've gotten older, my mom's always asked, like, hey, do you want to know where he lives? Like, do you want to go? And I have no aspirations now. I'm my own man. I've given myself my own life with the help of my mom, and there's nothing that he could give me now that I don't feel like I could do for myself or that my mom's already done for me. I honestly believe that she was a better father than he could have ever been, even if he stayed.
We're kind of kindred spirits in that. My mom and dad divorced at a young age, and my mom moved from Florida back to Alabama.
Wow.
To have a family help out with me and my younger brother. So single mom raising 2 boys. She would go from working all day straight to night school. So we would come home, go by the grandparents and eat, and then go home and wait on her to get home later on that evening and see what kind of trouble we got into, before she got home, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully we didn't burn the house down or nothing, right?
That was our goal.
But
that was our biggest goal. As long as we can do something, as long as everything we do, we can hide before mom shows up, I think we'll be okay.
I really didn't have a lot of interaction with my dad until after I turned 18. And I had major abandonment issues. because of that. But, you know, watching my mom work so hard to try and make up for the fact that there wasn't a dad in the house, I didn't feel like I could show her that I was hurting, even though she was doing the best she could.
Yeah.
So, you know, I made some bad decisions. I turned to drugs and alcohol to kind of mask that for a long time before I finally had to come to terms, you know, with my abandonment issues and make amends with my dad. I spent a big chunk of my life beating myself up for not having a dad. Crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something that's out of your control.
So that's something I'm super, super passionate about. You know, I realize that, you know, I don't care how bad your mom or dad is. You will never replace somebody's mother or father. And you should never try to replace them. But I never wanted my kids to ever feel the way I felt growing up. So my big promise to myself wasn't that I was going to be the president of the United States or, you know, that I was going to own a Fortune 500 company. It was that I was going to be a better dad than my dad was to me. That my kids were never going to have to grow up in a house without mom and dad the way I did, right? And so I got married to my now ex-wife, who I love to death. We're still friends, you know, to this day. We're more like brothers and sisters today than we are husband and wife, right?
Yeah.
But I love her dearly, and I wouldn't trade her or our kids for nothing, right? But when I met her, she had 2 children, you know, when I met her. That's part of the reason why I fell in love with her, was because I felt like these were kids that I could have raised myself, right? And we were together 14 years. It wasn't a good relationship, you know, for either one of us. Mm-hmm. It's not that I didn't love her, right? But it wasn't the kind of relationship that I would want or that either one of us deserved, right? And thank goodness that she divorced me, because if she hadn't, I wouldn't have found my wife that I'm with today, and I wouldn't know the difference, because I was committed to stay together. Yeah. I didn't care. I had made a commitment.
Yeah.
When I was a child, that I wasn't going to do it with my kids, but actually, I've learned now from looking back, because I'm here to tell you, when that happened, when she divorced me, I thought it was the worst thing in the world. And I fell off the wagon after 11 years sober and threw away a small fortune. And, you know, thank God I ended up in jail before I killed myself or somebody else and got sober again. But I learned so much. I mean, my kids are my kids. I got 4 kids, and I have 2 grandkids. 2 of my kids are married, so I've got 6 kids, right?
Grows.
Because I don't believe in stepkids.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as I call one child my kid and my other child my stepkid, what did I do?
You lessened him or her.
I told them, you're different. That's kind of what this is all about to me. I don't want my kids to ever feel the way I did. And I don't want anybody else's kids to ever feel the way you did. That you were born American just like me. You should wake up every day and feel just as entitled, as opportunistic, as able, free as me. And until that's the case, I won't stop.
People like you who do make big changes in the world, small wave can turn into a big one once you get enough people with you. And I'm sure, beyond a doubt, that the more people hear the message, the more people will support it. There are good people out there. I think it's a minority that that still believes in some people being less than others. I think that the vast majority of people want to be equal and want to believe that we're all equal, and just don't know a way to support that and make it happen. And so they do the things that they can or shy away from it. But having somebody to come to, having a place, having a movement, that's going to make people decide to stop hiding their own beliefs and come to terms with the fact that we all need help from each other. And the only way that the change is going to happen is if we're all in it together.
You know what's so sad to me is that here we have America. We have human beings. We have these creatures that have been able to create anything that we've put our mind to. And every time we come up with something, right, somebody is like, nope, it's never been done. You'll never do it. Mm-hmm. Right? So we're capable of magnificence whenever we want to. And we aren't even asking the question. When people ask me what I'm doing and I say, hey, I'm trying to end racism, they're like, well, that'll never happen.
It's never how.
That will never happen, was the words, right? Well, to me, that's like saying it's their fault, right?
Yeah.
When the real question is, well, how are we going to? Because it's not acceptable not to anymore.
I agree.
And if we start asking the question, how? Look out. Because it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I think personally our future depends on it. I mean, the way I see it is we have 327 million people in America. There's 7.6 billion people in the world. So every morning you wake up, brother, you got 7 billion likes. You got 7 billion people that'd like to trade places with you. It's about time we start acting like the lottery ticket holders that we are by being Americans.
Absolutely.
And we realize that our very future depends on our ability to stand together, because there's 7 billion people
who would trade
that'd like to trade places with you today.
Yeah.
And here we are creating borders and divides between us, like we've got that kind of luxury. That scares me. Over something as silly as a shade of skin. We were both born in the same neighborhood, in the same state, in the same country. It's nonsense.
It absolutely is. I think traveling opened my eyes to that more than anything. Going to other places, even the nicest places overseas, I would never trade that for what we have here. Not in a heartbeat.
I love traveling overseas because I'm always grateful to get home.
Yeah.
I love to go.
Yeah.
Right? I want to share experience with you. I'm in Cancun a few months back. We decided to go to the mall one day, so we go to the mall. We're standing there waiting on an elevator on the upper level. I look down on the level below us, and I see 3 black gentlemen congregated together. What do you think I thought when I saw them and the way they were dressed? Think I thought they were African American? Think I thought they were American?
Coming from you, definitely American.
Yeah. You look at them and tell they're from the United States.
Yeah.
Just as damn American as me. So I don't like the term. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean it in any disrespectful way. But for somebody to call me Caucasian is almost an insult, because I had to look it up to see what it was. Just American. A better definition of me would be Southern. Coming from Alabama, you'd know a lot more about me than telling somebody, oh yeah, he's a Caucasian guy.
Yeah, doesn't identify.
That was not what I was picturing when I show up, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
We live in a world where everybody wants to have assign some title. Everybody has to be a blank American. We can't just be Americans, and that's the root of one of the many issues. Is that everybody has to assign something. Everybody has to check a box. Everybody has to apply for something and put, this is what I am. And it becomes an identifying factor instead of a contributing factor to the person that you truly are.
Amen.
Yeah.
I couldn't have said it any better. I appreciate you being willing to go out and stand up for America, for U.S. citizens, to take on that role of being a Marine and serving for 5 years. And I think it's time, as America, we stand up for you. We stand up for every child that's born in America, and we vote for change, because I don't think the America that I keep hearing about on the news is a true reflection of who we are anymore.
Not anymore. Not even close.
We're over half women. In a democracy, women control stuff at this point. The most discriminated against for the longest period of time, to the greatest degree in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely. People tend to forget that black men had the right to vote before white women did. But, it's just one of those things that people, without learning history, how do you ever plan on changing the future? You have to know where everything starts before you can even plan on changing the end game.
Well, the conversation we had, with the gentleman in the sauna earlier, was about how they break us down into groups, right? By me calling you African American, it makes me easier for now you're not the same as me. And now I can treat you differently. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
When I call you a Democrat versus a Republican, well, it makes you different. So therefore now I can, be against you, right?
Yeah, you dehumanize them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our power, our government, is supposed to be a reflection of us. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't feel like I'm very well represented.
Not today.
Right now, right? And it's gotten so ugly to where I don't want to be a part of any of it. And so really what this is about for me is for us to find a place for us to stand together. Outside of politics, outside of religion, outside of personal preference. Where do we come together? Well, we're all U.S. citizens and we're all human beings. It's good enough for me.
Me too. Yeah.
So now, let's come together. Women with men, white with black, Asian with Mexican. And let's all start combining our resources. Let's all stand together. Let's show who has the power. Create a spot above politics, religion, or self-interest where now we're big enough where they have to listen.
Absolutely.
And things will start to change. But if we can't come together, if we continue to allow them to
push us apart, and
divide us, dilute us down into smaller groups, and no wonder we never get anywhere. No wonder we'll never get anywhere. But if I stand with you, you're going to now be compelled to stand with me?
Absolutely.
You might get somewhere. So what I hope for human equality, the Human Equality Foundation, right, was that I could raise enough money. I thought that racism should be an easy one. I was a little naive. I'll admit that.
Just a little
okay.
Bit. It runs deep.
But I still think that it should be easy. That if we would come together, we can make significant changes here. We could create an event such as the petition to where now we have something that could be taught in schools. We could start teaching equality and, a true reflection of American history, however bad it may look at some points in times, right?
Absolutely. That's where we come from.
But if we don't shy away from it, if we lean into it, it'll be our strength. We'll find a place to bond together, and we'll be stronger than we ever were by trying to deny our past and run from it or hide from it. And America will be something not only we're proud of, but we will have to stand together to fight other people out, because they're going to want to be a part of something like that.
Absolutely.
Brother, I appreciate you.
I appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you for coming in and being a part of this. One of our sponsors is Rockwell, and I have some Rockwell Marine Edition watches in the back, and I'm going to go grab you one. I'd like to give you one of those and one of our shirts if you wouldn't mind repping.
I would greatly appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you. Appreciate you.